on a podcast for forever.
Oh, that's awesome.
I need to use my timing skills to tell you to stop and start after every hour.
I'm feeling warm and fuzzy feelings.
Well, that requires a hug, sir. No, I'm kidding.
Oh.
Kidding, joke.
How about you, Flav? You feeling warm and fuzzy feelings?
I'm feeling good.
I can't hug Flav because two fat guys rugging together just makes the room warm.
Well,
No offense, Flav.
The world needs a little bit more warmth, but
That's
not
true.
any more COVID.
You know, Raul, you'd be happy in Ghana apparently because you'd be
Yeah,
rich.
apparently I'd be okay. Until
He's like,
they
yeah,
find
wait.
out that I'm dirt poor, and then they'd be like, forget it. This guy's a
He's like-
liar.
He's like, hey, Flav, let's go ball in Ghana.
Now,
We're on baller status
here's
here.
my question.
we're
my
like
question.
Big Pun and Biggie.
If Fat
Yeah,
Joe or
Fat
Big Pun
Joe,
and Biggie.
exactly. I'm Fat Joe.
Yeah,
Well, Fat Joe is more like medium-sized Joe now.
Well, that's exactly. I'm
Yeah.
more medium sized, but hey.
they were supposed to do an
Here's what-
album together. Big Pun and no, sorry, Fat Joe and Biggie. Fat
Biggie?
Joe and Biggie were supposed to do an album together.
That would have been great.
Yeah.
Too bad. Too bad.
Joe would have stepped his game up because, like, Joe
Yeah.
now is so good. I mean,
Yeah,
he was good then, but he's so good now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I like.
the longer you do it, the more you master the skill, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of. I don't know. He kind of sprinkles his goodness throughout. I mean, I definitely like early Joe. I like Jealous One's Envy Joe. Probably.
Yeah,
the
you
best.
would recommend it. I did listen to the album. I liked it. It was fun.
Jealous One's Envy.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
Not
crazy
to be
because
confused with Jealous One's Still Envy.
No. I know you said not to, so I didn't listen to that one.
Yeah.
the sales on that didn't reflect how good that album was.
Oh, not even close. Not even close.
That's like the best of the Beastie Boys was probably Paul's Boutique, the last
Oh my
album.
God.
And,
No, that was
and,
the second album.
Yeah.
That was the
Seriously,
second
wasn't
hip
that-
hop album.
It was the
Wasn't
second
that
hip-hop
before they
album,
got
yeah.
real popular?
No,
Yes.
they got real
Well-
popular with the first album.
Yeah, yes, for their rock hip hop fusion, yeah.
That first album
Yeah.
with
but
Brass
not-
Monkey and
Yes.
yeah, that album was great, but Paul's Boutique is so underrated.
Yeah. Paul's
For its
Boutique
greatness.
is like the Radiohead of their collection.
Yeah, that was their second hip hop album. That was
Yeah.
but it's so different than what you would expect from a hip hop album because like now they had made it and they were able to do what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
All right, I bow down to my elders in knowing the order of hip hop.
You have to respect your elders, dear. Sorry.
That song Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego
Yeah.
was my joint.
It was awesome.
Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. That was my joint.
They were all good though. They were all good.
Yeah, that album. You're right. Paul's Boutique is.
It's all good, man. You can't. I actually like Ill Communication maybe better,
Mhm.
but Paul's Boutique is just so different and so well done.
I'm surprised Mike isn't chiming in on this. Did you not listen to Paul's Boutique, Mike?
Paul's Boutique. I don't know it by album title. I mean, I know the album title, but I don't know the album songs on Paul's Boutique.
That's fair.
I listen to Ill Communication.
You were done after License to Ill?
I listened to them on the radio. I just never listened to them. I just never bought their stuff, so I didn't know it well enough to know like the individual names of the songs, except for No Sleep Till Brooklyn and Brass Monkey and Girls and stuff like
License to Ill.
License to Ill, yeah. Which was very popular, very popular.
See, I remember getting whatever. I can't for the life of me remember what the name of the album was, but the fourth one, the one after Ill Communication, like
The one
I
with Intergalactic.
yes,
Intergalactic Planetary.
yeah, that
The
one.
one with Sabotage and all that.
No,
No,
after
that's
that.
Ill Communicate. License to Ill,
Oh, that's
Then-
still License to Ill. Okay.
which is great.
No,
It's a great
the one
album.
with Intergalactic on it. I remember I was in like middle school or something, and my
No, that
parents
had a bunch of good stuff on it.
my
You
parents
were
wanting
in
to get
middle
me a
school when
CD.
Intergalactic came out?
Maybe high school,
Oh,
maybe
so
like
old. I'm
first
so
or second
old.
year.
That's all it
Man.
tells me. That's all it tells me.
But
Ish.
anyways, I remember like my parents buying it for me as a present because it was the only rap music that they could find that didn't have a Tipper Gore sticker on it.
That didn't have
yeah.
that didn't have black people in it.
No, that didn't. They didn't want to be seen as. Well, I think it's 'cause, like,
They could have gotten you DOS Effects at the same time. DOS Effects came out with an album that was all clean to fight that, and it sold horribly. It was so
Really?
bad. Yeah, it
What-
was
what
the
album-
one. It was the one after their main thing hit. It
Oh,
was the
okay.
one after, and
What?
it was all clean.
Why don't I remember this Tipper Gore phase? That must have been in Germany.
Must
Well,
no,
it's-
you
well-
weren't. I think
Well, I mean, it just had a sticker on it, right?
it's the parental advisory sticker. Like I call it the
Yeah, the
Tipper Gore
parental-
sticker because it was her idea.
Yeah, it was a parental. You remember the parental advisory?
Yeah, I
sticker?
do. Yeah, I didn't know that was a Tipper Gore thing.
No,
Oh, yeah.
no one called it that. She just called it that. But I mean, it was her, right? It was her thing.
It was her contribution to the cause.
I remember because of those stickers that caused me to get carded in a record store.
In order
Excuse
to
me,
buy a
ma'am.
good album.
Excuse
In
me,
order-
ma'am. I know you want to buy liquor and cigarettes, but really,
No.
we gotta card you. We
I
gotta
got
card you
carded in the-
again.
I got carded in the record store buying Nelly's Country Grammar album. because
Damien,
They
Yeah.
were like, are you old enough for this, young lady?
when you were 17, what was on your
Very good
playlist?
year.
When I was 17, what was on my plate?
Playlist.
Very good
Oh, my
year.
playlist.
Let me guess. Hey Ya by Outkast.
Interesting. I actually did like Outkast a bit. I don't know if I'd
Outkast is dope.
identify the songs and bands. I mean, the Beastie Boys were a pretty big influence for me because I did enjoy lyricists. Like, I loved lyrical progression, but more than anything, believe it or not, my heart was with classical music. It really starts with me listening to public radio or 91.1 on the radio station and listening to classical music at night. I really appreciated a lot of the works, learning more about Chopin and his relation with Franz Liszt, and getting into...
Liszt is incredible. It's one of my favorites.
What do you think about Mozart being black?
Wasn't that Beethoven?
Was that Beethoven?
I was
It
about to
wouldn't-
say, like,
Beethoven.
It wouldn't change anything for me, to be honest. Honestly, we could even debate and speculate
you
on it.
strike
You
me
know-
as someone. You strike me as someone who has like a big underground jazz catalog
Interesting.
on vinyl.
On vinyl, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, and vinyl actually did have a great quality sound. Unfortunately, I've never been able to keep a record player around. We had one once, and
He's like,
somebody
"What do you mean,
broke
record
the
player?"
Wait, I
Well,
want
that-
to
What's
get
a
into
record player?
this. Why Beethoven being black wouldn't mean anything to you. I want to get into that.
It just wouldn't change my perspective on the music and the production value and the beauty
guy-
of the work. Yeah.
Yeah, the guy who wrote the Three Musketeers and the
Dumas?
Dumas, yeah, Alexander Dumas was a mulatto, was a courtier's fling with a servant, and resulted in probably one of the most brilliant novelists of the English language. Period, French language first off, but
I have to say though that is a very white sentiment. That whole it doesn't mean anything to me that Beethoven was black. Like one of the premier composers, like one of the biggest, baddest composers of our time, who's considered
Well, not
a
our
legend.
time.
Sorry, you're right.
We're old, Flame, but not
What are you
that old.
doing? What are you doing, Flay?
Okay.
Oh,
Flame's
Of,
trying to
um,
kill us, Ish. Look how old we are now.
oh, by the way, what's a typewriter?
Of all times, that's considered a legend. If he were like black all this time and we didn't know it, there would be some there would be some importance to that, because it's either like, you know, like, why didn't we know that? Were they trying to like keep this information from us? Did he live like this secretive life where he couldn't like really be who he was? Did this influence his music at all? Like, all that stuff would be interesting to me.
Yeah, I feel that, you know, culture, you know, as you're saying, culture does play a big role in music, especially when you're talking about the influence of a foundation. Things about Beethoven's music stood out to me as different from some of the other classical composers. I'm more of a fan of Baroque composers, if you want to get into it, just because I love the virtuosic play styles. Like, that's why I mentioned Franz Liszt, is just because he was a virtuosic player.
Rachmaninoff,
Yeah.
those type of
Beethoven
people.
wrote such complicated composers that people refused to play for his symphonies sometimes because it was so difficult to do what he was asking them to do. And it's important to also consider with Beethoven that he was hard of hearing. He developed a difficulty hearing, and this meant a lot of what he was composing and writing was math. He was mathematically putting
He was
things together.
theoretical, yeah.
Yeah, and this is why some of his compositions became difficult to follow. But perhaps the most beautiful thing to note on Beethoven's style, you know, whether it was a cultural thing that caused him to think this way, or just straight up an individual thing. And that's what I mean by I would be unfazed by understanding his cultural background, because I see him as a truly unique individual.
I would also assume that he probably was removed from his culture.
Right. Yeah. I don't think culture really had a big influence on him, which freed him up and allowed him to make certain decisions and compositional movements that other artists didn't think of. The most famous being his Fifth Symphony, where everyone gets that dun 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 dun. But the beauty of some of his compositions was he accounted on putting his audience to sleep and waking them up. So a lot of what he wrote played into the mind of the listener. And that's why I say it's so interesting to look at what he was writing as math and to see some of his music as a form of communication. And that's not something you always see. Mozart plays with it a little bit, but he's literally playing with it, and he's very good at what
My
he
favorite
does.
song by Mozart is that joint that goes, Amadeus, 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 Amadeus.
Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Yeah,
I have to say, it's funny that you mentioned about Beethoven, like putting people to sleep and then waking them up. Because
yeah.
I swear to God, my brother must be like the only person in the universe who fell asleep both during a performance of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, and he also fell asleep during the Phantom of the Opera.
Well, I'd fall asleep on that too.
What?
Right, and
How
that
do you
was
fall asleep during the Phantom of the Opera? It's loud.
Phantom of the Opera. That was that Bach, if I'm not mistaken? Johann?
It's not good.
No, isn't it?
I forget that one.
Isn't it the young? He's a guy that's alive now.
Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Andrew
Oh, sorry.
Lloyd Webber. Yeah,
Oh, I'm thinking of the Fugue. I'm thinking of
yeah. The fugue is different. Yeah.
right, but uses the organ and uses that
Yeah,
kind of
absolutely.
movement.
It's
mean,
what he
Phantom-
plays. The fugue is what he plays in Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah,
Okay,
like how
I
could
was wondering why I was connecting the two.
Yeah.
even if it's bad, like, and I don't think the Phantom of the Opera is great at all, but even if it's bad, how could you sleep while you got an organ going?
I slept. The only
I was
thing
in the
I've ever
military.
slept for. The only thing I ever slept for. It's going to be ridiculous. It was meatballs with a side of cloudy, or I forgot what
Oh,
the
that's
Cloudy
name
with
was.
a
stupid kids
Cloudy
thing.
with the side
The
of
stupid
meatballs.
somebody took me to the kids thing, and I was so tired from politics that I just fell asleep the entire time. But I
You
had a
didn't miss
great
anything.
nap. I
You
had a
missed
great
anything.
nap.
You probably had a better dream than that stupid animation.
Somebody was very somebody I would live with was very into the series, so I was like, okay, I'll go with you, no problem. And then I was like, I 5 minutes in, I saw some cloudy meatball mess in the sky, and I went, yeah, maybe not. I just passed out.
I would have been like, am I tripping on something?
You missed nothing.
I've heard
It
from
was
other
a better
people.
book.
I have one quick question that segues from this real quick. How many people in this particular Zoom saw Harry Potter when they were kids?
Not when we were kids.
Kids?
I saw the first Harry Potter, and I read the first book. I never got into this series.
Were you a kid when you saw it?
Honestly, you say that, and it's funny to think like my inner child has been very well kept. I still enjoy things with that mind, so I would say, yeah, I was a kid.
Were you a physical kid?
Were you legally a child?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, I guess I was, under adult supervision.
I mean, I don't know.
How
I
about
think
you,
I was
Emily?
17. I can't remember if I was 17 or 18 when I saw the first movie. So I
How about
guess
you,
I would
Mike?
say a borderline adult.
I was never into it, so I mean, I may have finally watched like most of one or half of one semi recently, but it was never my thing.
I took my daughter to see them.
All
What'd
of
you
it.
think?
I was an adult.
Well, what did she think? More important.
Well, she had read the book, so she liked it.
Great.
She was insistent. That was our thing. Like every time a Harry Potter movie came out, we just went to go see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked reading the first book was interesting, and then my mom had got me the second book, and I actually even liked that. Chamber of Secrets, I think it was called.
Yeah,
But
Chamber
then-
of Secrets is the second one.
Yeah, it was good. But when I was shown the third book, I immediately got like a impulse to reject the whole remaining series. I even was like, as far as it goes, like the ending should be predictable enough. I rewrote the whole story in my head, thinking like, magic is a cyclic idea. There's cycles of it. We come up with our own schools. This is describing things in our dreams. I liked the use of Latin in it. I liked the use of some of the lore into the universe. But something about just looking at the third book, I don't know, was that Prisoner of Azkaban? Was that
Yeah.
It was like
That's actually my
Sorcerer's Stone.
favorite.
No, Sorcerer's
Sorcerer's-
Stone was the first.
First one. That one I liked. And I did like the second one. But yeah, when I think it was Prisoner of Azkaban or something like that, that I was immediately repelled. I averted. I dropped the whole thing. My mom continued to buy the books. I said, "Stop! I'm not reading these anymore. This is not working for me." And I think I ended up seeing the final movie or something. But you know what? The thing about the Harry Potter culture as a leaving note on it for me is Quidditch. I loved the idea.
Many people
Quidditch.
do. Yeah,
Just like it reminded me of this old school movie. I think it was called Skull and it's something. It's a game where you have to get a skull on a stick, and there's guys with like nets and swords, and they're trying to. And there's the runner.
Oh, For the Blood of Heroes with Rutger Hauer.
So good. And the idea of the golden snitch reminded me of that movie a little bit. I was like, wow, this is cool.
Minus the blood. The blood.
Everyone in the viewer audience, thumbs up for Raul and Damien for the Rutger Hauer reference.
Yeah,
it was good. It was that was a great movie. I have so many images from that movie. I saw that at a young age as a kid. I saw
He did so many good movies, and no one talks about him.
Yeah.
Like
Sad.
he's in like all the cool movies, like Lady Hawk and I Come in Peace, and like he's in so many great films, and it's like
Bounty Hunter.
Rutger who?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, go on.
Guy. Poor guy.
But the because you even had like what is it, the bludgeons, or there's like there's the quaff. The quaff hits people off their thing, and you got to try to knock the quaff or whatever. It got my mind thinking about inventing new games. I was like, you know what? We could just make up games. We could make up games with different positions and people doing things, and that kind of got my gears going for like, how can I make up new sports?
In the 70s, that was very popular. To make up new types of games and stuff
Yeah.
that people could play.
I felt like that was a good takeaway with the Harry Potter series for me. Was
That's how we
walking
got
away
stupid games like Wiffle Ball.
can modify wiffle ball a little bit.
All right, guys, I have to sign off for the night. You guys take care.
Yeah,
All right, Ralph.
it is getting late. It's true.
Uh,
I got hands full of comic books, so
Did you end
hands full of
up
comic books.
checking out that lady? I saw she posted a bunch of comic books. I wasn't sure where she was or what her deal was, but I thought, man, this could be
yeah, I was hoping she messaged. She says she's putting together a list.
nice, cool. Yeah, I thought right away too, and I saw the boxes, and I was like, you know what? there's got to be gold in there somewheres, but I wouldn't even know how to ask for it. But it sparked that little inner child memory of like my comic book collections and things that happened there. So I thought that was good.
It's
If
cool
I
that
knew to put it on Comic Sense, I would have. I didn't.
you could have just posted the link there. It's cool that you remembered Hive, by the way.
Yeah. There's characters that interest me. Actually, another funny comic series that I feel like gets a little lost in obscurity is Aquaman. And I'm not, he's not my favorite superhero. I can't begin to pretend that. But there were some things that I liked. And, it got me thinking about the environment. Some of my environmentalist superhero background could very well be memories of Aquaman or thinking of, oh, gee, I wonder how does this hero really get around? But I think the character was Dark Abyss or the Abyssal Darkness, or it was some entity that lived in the sunken ruins of Atlantis and was using its psychic influence to try and make humans read some Atlantean book to bring his spirit to possess them, which was similar to Hive, who had to possess a human or take their form. I think in the comics he does succeed. He gets, I think, a politician or someone to actually read and bring the Dark Abyss in there. But I'm having a hard time completely recalling much more past that. But it's something that, as a kid, kind of gave me second thoughts about politicians and, what are their real intentions with the environment, and what creative problem solving Aquaman had to do, because he was kind of limited with his power. His power was great and all, but there's only so much he could do. There's only so many different bad guys too he could possibly deal with. I remember pirates were a problem that repeated a few times. Just an interesting comic book that kind of gets a little lost in the great
Aquaman. It's currently one of the best written books over at DC.
Really interesting.
Yeah. It's about to be canceled, but DC's canceling almost all of their books, but that's a good one. Aquaman. I mean, I don't read it, but I just know enough about that particular title and how people receive it. It's really well written right now, which is surprising.
What is it with all this canceling things?
Yeah, DC's getting rid of everything.
Wow.
They're canceled like I'm canceled, huh?
Well, I mean, you're back. They're actually getting rid of their comics and they're not coming back.
Really?
They're going digital.
Oh, okay. There we go. I was gonna say, I'm like, well, they can't. It's a legend. It's a story. But so they're going digital. So
yeah, because Time Warner / not Time Warner. Well, AT&T is the top dog. That's at the top of that food chain.
Okay.
But they don't even, the profit that they're making, and they do make a profit on their comics, is so marginal to them that they're like, why bother continuing to put money into this company to put out these comics where the profit for us, while there is a profit, it's just marginal. We can save the cost by going digital and just licensing our 3 major IPs, i.e. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. We'll always make money off of that. They don't have, Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman don't have to be comic books for people to make, for them to make millions of dollars off of those characters.
Well, yeah, those are their staples.
Yeah. So it's like we have these IPs that are always going to be worth money. We'll just continue licensing them to different forms of media and make money that way. Because the reality is, nobody really buys Superman comics. They're not really good. People buy Batman. They just don't really buy.
I feel like that Batman must be one of the most bought comics.
Yeah, especially for DC. It's their top selling book is Batman. That's the book that they get their. No one really buys Superman. I wish more people bought Wonder Woman, but it's just never written very well.
It's never written very well, and then you have to add in misogyny too.
What do you think?
I don't think misogyny plays a big factor when it comes to when it comes to Wonder Woman in particular, or like She-Hulk, or
Yeah,
women
probably
in
not.
comics,
You're right.
or women in comics. But you're not wrong, because like people rebelled against Miss Marvel specifically for that reason.
Because she's a woman?
Yeah, you had a bunch of men that didn't like the fact that Miss Marvel, who's been around since like the 70s, right? You know, when they bring her back, they bring her like she's always been as powerful as she is, because the history with Miss Marvel and Marvel Comics is
Were
bad.
these men like incels or something?
Well, so here's the problem. Marvel's history was bad when it came to Miss Marvel, really bad. Like one of the worst stories ever written in comics is a story about Miss Marvel. And what happened was, so when they first introduced Miss Marvel to Marvel in the 70s, it was literally to appeal to little boys. They over-sexualized her. They put her in like little to nothing. Like she'd wear the same color scheme, but like very, very short shorts. And the whole point was to make a female that was appealing to boys, to get them to buy more comics. That was literally what they
So
did.
basically, they wanted to make something for boys to look at and think with their you-know-whats.
Right. So her stories were very horrible. Even though her original run in comics is a brilliant run that's very expensive, because there's so many key issues in there. So many major characters appeared in her original run, but her stories weren't written very well. So what happened was they took her and they put her in the Avengers. And again, she was eye candy. So they came up with this story that was, when I say it was horrible, this story was so bad, where she ends up getting like abducted by this almost omnipotent being who turns out to be her son. But how he turns out to be her son is he's been imprisoned in like this parallel universe, and he seduces her, pretending he's benevolent, to get her to come there and help him get free. Well, he falls in love with her, you know what I'm saying, because he like controls her mind and seduces her into thinking she's in love with him, sleeps with her, impregnates her.
Jeez, the plot thickens.
He impregnates her so that he's not having a son. He's literally impregnating her with himself, so that when he releases her from this realm, she'll give birth to him outside of this realm. This is how bad this story was. It was so bad. It gets worse. So she gives birth to this kid who proceeds to grow to adulthood in a matter of days and seduces her again. Mind you, she's an Avenger, and none of the Avengers, not Captain America, none of them seem to have a problem with any of this. And like he seduces her again and gets her to leave, brainwashes her and gets her to leave, and they think everything's cool. And it's like, wait a minute. This kid just grew up in a matter of days, seduced her, brainwashed her, got her to leave, and like the Avengers just like let it happen like it was cool. And
So
it's
I have a
why.
question.
Hold on, just one second, Mike. So what happens is eventually they forget about the character, and Chris Claremont, who was kind of pissed at what they did to her, takes her and puts her in the X-Men comics. And that's when she finally started getting treated like the character she should have been getting, you know, she should have been all along. Is when he started using her in the X-Men comics. And you know, he went into her past about how she was a fighter pilot and did all kind of things to make her get the respect that she deserved. I'm sorry, Mike, go on. You had a question?
Treated like not as a sex symbol.
Right.
If this is a sex object,
Yeah.
or both, this character who impregnates her so that he himself can be born outside of this realm, what happens to the him that impregnated her?
It no longer is. He's like near omnipotent. So he could once he put his essence in her, he no longer existed there.
He ceases to exist.
Weird.
It was a dumb story, Mike. Like it sounds as dumb. The explanations, everything about it, it's literally called, like if you Google the worst story ever in Marvel, that'll come up. Or the story Marvel wants you to forget, that will come up. Like every time. It's widely considered the worst story ever told. Like they should have. It was so bad. And so present day, when they bring Captain Marvel back to prominence for the whole Marvel Now movement and the whole nine, they bring this hero who, while had been over-sexualized and misportrayed for at the beginning of her run, is legitimately like one of the most powerful heroes in all of Marvel. But you have all these people in present day who didn't read Miss Marvel in the 70s. They didn't, and when she was with the X-Men, she didn't have her powers because Rogue had taken them from her. So she just was a ally of the X-Men who lived at the X-Men's mansion. And so no one remembered how powerful Captain Marvel really was. So when they brought her back, you had all these dudes who were pissed. Oh, why is she so OP? She can just beat up everybody. Who is she? Why is this woman? Da 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 da. She's always been who she was. She's always been almost the equivalent of Superman. That's always been the case. Y'all just didn't read comics in the 70s, and you didn't really pay attention to her when she was an X-Men because she didn't have her powers. Now she has her powers, and she really is that chick. It's the reason why so many guys rebelled against the Captain Marvel movie, but they didn't against the Wonder Woman movie. Because how she got, like, Captain Marvel wasn't a prominent, she didn't have her own comic in Marvel Comics till recently, till like the 2000s. So she was never a prominent character in Marvel until Marvel decided, yeah, we're going to make this super powerful girl who we did dirty throughout the majority of her comic character career. We're going to give her her own comic book and recognize her for what she is, because it's like Marvel Now and representation. And we actually have this character who really is super powerful and deserves the respect that we never gave the character.
But that's not going to be, that's not, it's still going to be Brie Larson though, right? It's not going to be the Black Mother.
It's not going to be the other Captain Marvel, who you're talking about, the one I posted the other day, the black woman. No, it's still going to be Brie Larson, but she is a Captain Marvel as well. She's just a different type of. She doesn't even. They made all that up. Like that movie, like that Black Captain Marvel didn't really know the white Captain Marvel. The Black Captain Marvel is a very important character in her own right because she was like the second leader of the Avengers after Captain America. And she was the leader of the Avengers for a long time.
All right, I'm gonna get going.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
yeah,
take off, but it's been real.
Waves is right, Waves.
Work.
Get some right.